Hello YouTube, Drake Clawfang here, and tonight I'm counting down my top 10 favorite Final Fantasy male characters. I admit this list is a little easier to come up with than the top 10 females, since there are a lot more males in Final Fantasy and they're usually more prominent. Not to be sexist or anything, but I just see it that way. Not much to say other than that. Same criteria as the females. How badass are they, how well developed the characters are they, and how cool are their voice actors, if they have any. So let's take a look. Number 10 is Golbez. A rule I made for myself was no villains on either the top 10 female or male lists, but Golbez has evolved beyond his role as an antagonist into the most complex and developed character in the Final Fantasy IV universe. He's burdened by immeasurable guilt and pain for the crimes he committed under Zenith's control, and in the after-years it's strongly implied he feels he should die at Sissel's hand because part of him feels it's the only way to absolve him of his sins. Thea explores him even further as a tortured anti-hero that wants to fight for the light and tries to help the heroes, but feels he's undeserving of redemption and his corruption by evil robs him of the right to fight for good directly. He's also just really badass in every game he appears. He makes one hell of an entrance. He's one of the best party members in the after years with black magic and swordplay, and he's an infamous combo master in the city with his HP link. He's also got a really cool design, awesome theme, and a great voice actor. The Darth Vader of fantasy, Golbez is just all around awesome. Number 9 is Squall. A lot of people dislike Squall, and they aren't all wrong. Yes, he is a dick. He acts cold, callous, stoic, and antisocial. But that's why he's on the list. It is just an act. Squall is actually a very deep and explored character, if not a very likable one. He really is a good person deep down and cares about his friends, but he's carrying the burdens of childhood trauma and abandonment issues, and thanks to Guardian Forces erasing his memory, unlike most people, Squall never developed the emotional tools or maturity to come to terms with these problems. He acts like a bastard to avoid getting close to people, both afraid of losing them and afraid of letting them down. It's why he places such high value on strength, because he wants to protect his friends and cannot stand to lose them because he can't. His personality fits perfectly with him being made the commander of C, a distant, stern authority figure who nonetheless cares for those beneath them and will act to protect them. And as I said in the Wiki's Let's Play of FF8, when he spends most of the game hanging out with Selphie, Zell, Urban, and Rinoa, well, can you blame Squall for being dickish and eternally moody? He may not be my first choice for a best friend, or even my fifth choice, but Squall is still a developed, explored, and memorable character. Number 8 is Vivi. Like so many characters in Final Fantasy IX, Vivi is a tragic figure, but to a greater degree than anyone else save for perhaps Kuja. Throughout the game, Vivi is tormented by questions of who he is, or perhaps what he is. It starts when he sees other black mages like him in service to Alexandria as soldiers, but unlike him, they're mindless automatons who do whatever they're told, which most of the time is destruction. The truth of his past and the discovery of what it means shakes the little guy to his core, but he learns not to let it destroy him. He learns to appreciate life for what it is and enjoy it regardless of what pain it may bring, tying into the main themes of the game well. This also makes him a good foil to Kuja, who learns the same revelations as Vivi in a sense, but handles them a little less well. Vivi is just a strong-written, very likable, and very sympathetic character. Number 7 is Bosch. As I said in my top 5 games review, not many characters in FF12, aside from Ash, get much character development. But this isn't always a bad thing. Not every character needs a personal issue to angst over and to come to terms with and learn from to be awesome. Bosch is badass just as he is. He's stoic, stalwart, and devoted. He'll do anything to defend Ash and Dalmasca from the Empire, even if he disagrees with the choices Ash makes during the game. Out of all the characters in Final Fantasy XII, if anyone should be angsty, it's definitely Bosch. His twin brother disgraced him by killing the king disguised as him, the world thinks he's a long-dead traitor, and in his backstory he's failed to defend his homeland 3 times, first when Arcadia invaded Landis, then with Nabradia, and now with Dalmasca. But he doesn't angst. We do see in some scenes what he thinks of his failures and that he's definitely ashamed of them and carries the burdens of them, but he continues on and remains a bastion of courage and strength for the other party members to turn to, imparting his wisdom to them when they need it. Bosch is simply a well-written, subtle, but memorable man. Number 6 is Zack. He had a very minor role in Final Fantasy VII, only having a handful of mentions and appearing in person only twice, one of which was optional. Then Crisis Core made him a true breakout character, and a very memorable and likable one. Zack is pretty much the exact opposite of Cloud in personality, which I suppose is the point. He's goofy, funny, flirtatious and energetic, yet not to an annoying extent like some characters can be. But at the same time he's courageous, sensible, and over the course of Crisis Core learns to be responsible and mature without losing his light-hearted good humor. If Crisis Core and Zack have a flaw, it's that they try to push Zack's influence on past events too much. He names the Seventh Heaven, he fuels Yuffie's attempts at treasure hunting, he suggests Aerith wears pink. It's a bit much. But it's more of a narrative flaw than a character flaw. On his own, Zack is friendly, charismatic, and simply really cool. Number 5 is Allin. What else can I say? Everyone loves Allin and it's not hard to understand why. He's stoic and badass, he's calm and focused, he's a strong and wise mentor, and he gets some good moments of lighthearted snark and caring to show there's a good heart beneath the cynicism. What makes Allin so interesting is something that many other badass characters in Final Fantasy lack, which is character depth to go with his reputation. Beneath the calm and stoic exterior, Allin harbors a lot of rage, hatred, and guilt. For Yevon, for Braska, for Jet, and for himself. And all for the same reasons, that they submitted to false hope and he let his two friends sacrifice their lives for what he already suspected was a hopeless cause. We don't often see Allin angst like many tormented heroes do, but we do get a few occasional glimpses of the cauldron of emotion boiling within, which help reinforce the burden he bears and show how greatly they affect his behavior. And these brief glimpses also add up the mystery about him because we quickly learn things about him that don't add up. All in all, Allin is a well-written, cool, and explored mysterious character. Number 4 is Kane, and much like Allin, his ranking here needs no explanation. Thanks in part, I'd like to think, to my friend Phython of Final Fantasy Wiki, he's been propelled to the Chuck Norris of Final Fantasy. He's badass, he looks awesome, he has an amazing voice actor, and he has a strong character arc. Much like Golbez, remakes of the original game and his appearances in Dissidia deepen Kane's character when once he was shallow and unexplored. And in doing so, he becomes an interesting foil to Golbez and Cecil, doing what must be done to ensure the survival of the heroes in Duodecim and working alongside Golbez to do it. He's also pretty much the hero of the after years. I'm sorry, Theodore? I don't recall Cecil Jr. having his evil alter ego be a main antagonist and his quest for redemption be a central plot focus. But in an interesting way, that is part of Kane's fate, it's who he is. He's not the main character, he's not even fitting the idea of the hero role itself. Kane is not the hero. He's the classical anti-hero, a shady foil to the intended star of the show that steals the spotlight in his own subtle way. Rosa may not have made the best choice between the two men in her life, but we fans have made up for it in the real world because we all adore Kane. Number 3 is Thea.
I play the leading man. Who else?
His claim to being the leading man of Final Fantasy XII is a lofty one, but he proves himself worthy of it. If there's a hand of destiny at work in the events of the game, it's definitely got a hold of Thea, because while he's dragged into events by circumstance, his past connects him to the most central concepts and villains of the game. And these connections are foreshadowed quite subtly and nicely and make a good bonus during replays of the game, because now we know what it means when he suddenly perks up at the mentions of Nephesite and Dracor. He's been compared to Han Solo in that he's only in it for the money at first, but comes to be a truly heroic member of the Rebels over time. And yeah, that's pretty accurate, but it's hardly a bad thing. Adding on to Thea's awesomeness is a great vocal performance by Gideon Emery, which coupled with giving him some of the best lines in the game beyond his catchphrase, make Thea a very cool and memorable character. Number 2 is Hope. First, kindly pick your jaws up off your keyboards. Yes, he's ranked above some steep competition. I've mentioned in my last 2 vids I feel Final Fantasy XIII has uneven character development. Hope, however, I consider to be the game's best developed and explored character. At first he's whiny, annoying, a mama's boy, and a total load to the more battle-ready heroes. And that's exactly the point, and he knows it. Hope is not the usual child fighter who happily jumps into battle alongside the rest of the party and proves just as capable. He knows he's weak, he knows he's not able to help himself, and he works towards strengthening himself to stand on his own. He whines and moans about Snow getting his mom killed and swears that he'll make him pay, but he doesn't just whine, he prepares for the days when they'll meet again so he can actually do something about it. And by the end of the game, Hope is a very different boy from when we first met him, giving awesome one-liners to Orphan and being an excellent party member, and one of my main three along with Fang and Light. It's almost enough to make me want to play Final Fantasy XIII 2 to see his story continue, but until I succumb to curiosity over common sense, Hope's story in Final Fantasy XIII is enough to make him my favorite character of the game. And number 1 on the list is Zidane, who is not only my favorite male character, but narrowly edges out Terra to rank as my favorite Final Fantasy character in the entire series. The reason why is because Zidane is very similar and yet very different from other Final Fantasy characters. Even as far back as Final Fantasy IV with Cecil, Final Fantasy has had a lot of heroes that brood, mope, and have identity issues to come to terms with. Zidane has many of the same issues that shapes characters like Terra, Cloud, and Squall, but he handles them very differently. He doesn't have his maturity stunted and he isn't emotionally crippled by his personal problems, he deals with them by overcompensating. He acts overly friendly, cheerful, and intelligent to make people like them, and by acting as a sort of mentor or lover figure to them, depending on gender, he allows himself to distance himself from them emotionally. And just like Terra, Cloud, and Squall, ultimately Zidane has to learn to knock that off and let other people into his life and trust them. It's a much more interesting take on the usual character archetypes the series had established up to that point, and it also makes Zidane a lot more likable and relatable as we learn about him and realize he's a deeper character than he initially seems. And that's pretty much why he's on the list. He's a developed and deep character with a believably portrayed hesitations and personal conflicts, and he still manages to come off as a likable, friendly guy. Zidane's the type of person you'd call up and hang out with on the weekends. He's just really cool. He's also one of Final Fantasy IX's best party members with a lot of power and speed, as well as the steal ability to grab some great items from bosses. And he's my personal pick for the best Dissidia character in both games, again balancing speed and power. And contrary to what a lot of people have heard, or so I've heard at least, I think he has a pretty good vocal performance too. Not much else to say, but much like the rest of Final Fantasy IX, there's a lot to like about Zidane, inside and out. Once again YouTube, this has been me listing my top 10 Final Fantasy male characters. As per usual, just because you didn't see someone you like on the list doesn't mean that I hate them, it's just that there's only 10 slots and I had to choose carefully. I'm also aware that some of my choices may seem unorthodox, but I have put a lot of thought into this list and didn't choose arbitrarily. In particular, I had a long mental debate with myself over who should be 2 and who should be 3. Next vid coming up is probably going to be top 10 villains, so thanks for watching YouTube and see you next time.